Today's lesson is going to a post office. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be looking at a couple of conversations that are having to do or do have to do with going to a post office. Yes, we still need to go to the post office once in a while. Yeah, we still send a lot of emails and things like that and communicate with people online, but there are some times when we need to send things through the mail, letters or packages or whatever. Or here in Taiwan, we want to do some banking because a lot of people, of course, have savings accounts at the local post offices. And in today's lesson, we're going to see Tim as he tries to send a letter, and he also needs to pick up a registered letter.
Very, very interesting. All right, so let's check out what they're going to be doing at the post office. It's a place that people might visit, on a weekly basis, so it's a good chance for us to check out some of the language we would use going to a post office.
Okay, so let's listen to the first conversation, and we'll come right back to discuss it.
Going to a post office. 1. Sending a letter. Tim goes to a post office to send a letter.
Hi, how can I help you today?
I'd like to mail this letter. The envelope is already stamped, but I'm not sure if additional postage is necessary.
It depends on its weight and where you want to send it. Are you sending the letter abroad?
Yes, to Japan.
It weighs less than 1 ounce, so the total postage is $1.40. So you need to add 91 cents worth of stamps.
Okay, thank you.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到单字 postage， 这个字是名词，指的是邮资。例如 How much is the postage for this package? 这个包裹的邮资是多少钱？或者 The postage to send this heavy box will be expensive. 要寄这个重箱子的邮资会很贵。
Okay, so again, we're going to a post office. And in conversation 1, we're talking about sending a letter. You could also say mailing a letter, where you put a piece of paper inside an envelope, you seal it, you write the address on it, and then you put a stamp on it, and you put it in the mailbox, and it hopefully will get to your recipient in a short amount of time. So again, in conversation 1, we are sending a letter, and Tim goes to a post office to send a letter. Indeed, if you don't have your own stamps at home or you're not quite sure how much postage to put on the envelope, you might need to go to the post office to find out how many stamps you need to buy.
The clerk there, working there, greets Tim and says, Hi, how can I help you today? Because, of course, there's a range of services that post offices provide to people. We should point out that post offices in Taiwan also operate as banks, but as far as I know, this is kind of an unusual arrangement. Most post offices in North America certainly will only do things involving letters and packages. You don't do banking there. I'm not even sure you would find an ATM in a post office in North America. But Tim is doing something pretty basic. He's sending a letter, and that's what he explains to the clerk. I'd like to mail this letter. He could also say, I'd like to send this letter or post this letter as well. The envelope is already stamped, but I'm not sure if additional postage is necessary. Yeah, it's true. Sometimes the amount of stamps or the cost of sending a letter does change. So Tim has done the best he could, but maybe he last sent a letter a year ago, and the cost, the price could have gone up. So he says it's already stamped, but I'm not sure if additional postage is necessary. And I guess if it's traveling further in the world, or if it's a particularly heavy letter, if he's put a lot of different things in the envelope or many pages of paper, it might be a little heavy. So the postage will have to be checked carefully, because the postage is the stamps, basically, those things that you lick and stick onto the corner of the envelope, and they all have a money value, and that is basically the way you pay to send your letter through the mail. And sometimes, of course, with heavy packages, or if you haven't mailed things in a while, that postage amount will change, and so you'll have to add some stamps to the envelope or package.
Interesting. So, of course, postage is the amount of money you pay to send a letter or a package in the mail. And you just mentioned that you lick the stamps. I think that is something that's unique to North America. If you go to other countries, they're going to think you're really weird for licking stamps and then sticking them on an envelope. At least here in Taiwan, people use the glue.
Oh, they do use glue.
And they slap them on the stamps and put them on the envelope. I think a friend of mine went to Europe and they were staring at him when he was trying to lick the stamps. It was...
In the UK, though, I used to collect stamps in the UK and they lick them there.
Oh, they do? Okay, good enough. But in any case here, yes, he needs to attach more postage to the envelope if the postage isn't sufficient. And the clerk says, well, it depends on its weight and where you want to send it. And those are factors that determine the postage of what you want to send. It depends on the weight of the envelope. Is it heavy? Is it light? And it also depends on where you want to send it. Do you want to send it domestically or do you want to send it overseas? And if overseas, where? And so the clerk asks Tim, are you sending the letter abroad, or are you sending the letter to another country? And Tim says yes, to Japan. He's going to be sending the letter to the land of the rising sun.
Oh, that's a lovely place to send a letter to. Well, the clerk then puts the letter on a scale, so they're going to weigh the letter. This is, less common than if you're sending a package. Of course, packages can vary in size and weight by a huge amount, so they'll always weigh your packages. But yeah, I guess if the clerk thinks that the letter is a little bit thick, a little bit heavy, they might weigh it just to see how much it weighs. And it says it weighs less than 1 ounce, so the total postage is $1.40. Okay, a couple of clues there that were in America. They talked about an ounce of weight, and also the postage is $1.40, which of course we wouldn't say in Taiwan, but in North America you would. But in Canada we might not use ounces, we might use grams. An ounce is an older form of weight. It's an imperial weight, I believe. It's around 28 grams. So the total postage is $1.40. And then the clerk, I can imagine them looking at the envelope and at the stamps that Tim has already stuck on the outside. And the clerk says, so you need an additional 91 cents worth of stamps. So yeah, he is a little short. He's a little low with the amount of postage stuck to it. So he'll have to add almost $1, 91 cents. And then that will be enough money to get your envelope on a plane to Japan. Okay, thank you, says Tim. So he's going to get some stamps, stick them on, and then the letter will be off.
And it will be off, and it will probably arrive in Japan in just a couple of days. Okay, so we have sent a letter. Tim has successfully mailed a letter at the post office. And now he's got something else he needs to do in conversation 2. He's going to pick up a registered letter. Let's listen to his conversation with the clerk now.
2. Picking up a registered letter. Tim goes to the post office to pick up a letter.
Hello, I was notified that there's a registered letter here for me.
Yes, that's right. Registered mail requires a signature upon delivery, so that's why the letter wasn't just left in your mailbox. Can you show me your ID?
Here you are. Just out of curiosity, what happens if someone doesn't eventually pick up a registered letter?
An addressee has 5 to 7 days after receiving the final delivery notice. After that, we will return the mail to the sender along with proof that we made several attempts to deliver it.
Got it. Thanks for explaining that.
第二部分我们看到形容词 registered， 它的意思是邮件或是包裹挂号的，也可以是注册的。举例来说 ，Remember to pick up your registered letter， 记得去领取你的挂号信。又或者说 Toby is a registered veterinarian who runs his own clinic in Taipei. Toby 是名注册兽医，在台北自己开诊所。另外，这个字如果去掉字尾 ed， 就会变成动词 register， 指的是报名、登记或是注册。例如 New students must register before the beginning of the semester. 新生必须在学期开始之前注册。或者我们可以说You need to register first before you can read all of the articles on the website. 你需要先注册才能阅读这个网站上所有的文章。接着我们看到单字 notify， 这个字是动词，指的是正式通知或是告知。例如 The principal notified parents about changes to the school's policies. 校长正式通知家长学校政策的改变。或是 In most countries, the media notifies the public in case of natural disasters. 在大多数国家中，天灾发生时，媒体会通知大众。再来，我们看到单字 curiosity， 这个字是名词，意思是好奇心或是求知欲。例如 The little boy's curiosity made him put his hand into the fire. 那个小男孩的好奇心使他把手放进火里。或是 Pandora's curiosity about the universe led her to become an astronomer. Pandora 对宇宙的好奇心引领她成为一位天文学家。另外，补充这个字的形容词 curious, C-U-R-I-O-U-S, curious, 意思是好奇的或是想探究的。像是 Be curious about the world and learn something new every day. 要对世界充满好奇，并且每天学习新事物。又或者说I ask a lot of questions because I'm always curious. 我问很多问题，因为我充满好奇心。最后，我们看到副词 eventually， 指的是最终、终于或是最后。例如 Dan says he plans to open a bookstore eventually. Dan 说他最后计划要开一家书店。或者我们可以说 Mike and Susan will eventually get married, but they are happy just dating right now. Mike 和 Susan 最终会结婚，但他们很满意现在还在约会的阶段。
Okay, so of course, if you go somewhere to get something, you pick that thing up. And so he goes to the post office to pick up a registered letter. If something's registered, there is a record for it. A lot of times when we mail letters, we might just put the stamp on it and stick it in the mailbox. And we don't really know for sure if it's going to get to the destination or not. It usually does. Probably 99% of the time, the letter will arrive without any problems. But sometimes, if you need to send something to somebody and it's very important and you want to make sure that it gets to that person, that the letter does not get lost in the mail, then you want to have a registered letter.
Absolutely. Yeah, registered letters are very, very useful when you're sending documents that you don't want to lose or things like that, because it's a way for them to track the letter. It's registered, it's been written down in another place, so if we want to go back and check the information, we will have a record of where the letter was sent, how it should get to you, when it should get to you, that kind of thing. So he's going to the post office to pick up a letter. This is a registered letter that has been sent from someone else to him. He doesn't get the letter in his mailbox, but he will get something that says, "We have a letter for you. Come and pick it up." And that's how he kind of begins his conversation with the clerk. Tim says, "Hello, I was notified that there's a registered letter here for me." And then we read, Tim shows the clerk the notification. So this notification will be a small piece of paper that will be in your mailbox. It will clearly be sent from the post office. It will have your name, and it will probably say, "Come to the post office. We have something for you to pick up." And that's how he was notified. When you notify someone, you basically give them information that's important. You pass along news. You tell them something they need to know. So if someone is going to change their plans, or there's something important that they don't want you to forget or miss out on, they will tell you, they will notify you, either by saying it, "Hey, did you hear about the meeting?" Or they'll send an email or a text or a memo or something like that. So I was given this information that there's a letter and I'm here to get it. And the clerk says, "Yes, that's right." So Tim has the right information.
Indeed. So, yes, indeed, he shows the clerk the notification. The clerk looks at the notification and says, "Yes, that's right. Registered mail requires a signature upon delivery, so that's why the letter wasn't just left in your mailbox." Indeed, if you send a registered letter to somebody, they have to sign for it when it arrives. And if you're not home when the letter arrives, then the postal carrier, the postman, will not be able to leave the letter in your mailbox. They'll have to take it back to the post office, but they will leave you some kind of notification to let you know that they tried to deliver the letter, but they were not successful because you were not there. And so, yes, indeed, you need to go down to the post office yourself to pick up that registered letter. And here the clerk wants to see Tim's ID. Can you show me your ID? Can you show me your identification? Like your driver's license or your national ID or your passport or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's exactly why they don't just put it in your mailbox. They want to make sure it gets to the right person, because registered letters are usually very, very important. So yeah, come down, let us see your ID, make sure we're getting this letter to the right person. So Tim, being prepared, has brought his wallet with him and his ID. Here you are, he says, as he hands over his ID. It says he shows the clerk his ID, signs a form, and is handed his letter. So we would do the same kind of thing if we're picking up anything important. You know, if you order something from a store that they have for you, you might have to show your ID and sign something to say, yes, I've picked it up. All of that is done just to keep things official. Just out of curiosity, Tim says. So this tells us that he has a question to ask before he leaves. Just out of curiosity, what happens if someone doesn't eventually pick up a registered letter? Interesting question. I think Tim really is just asking this out of curiosity, not because he expects it to happen, but it's good to know when you have curiosity, you're curious about something. You have questions. You're looking for more information, data, answers to your questions. So when you're asking a question and you're not saying, you know, I don't plan to do this. This isn't my intention in the future to not pick up my letters. Of course I'll pick up my letters, but I'm just curious. Just out of curiosity, he's asking, the kind of thing that you wonder while you're just sitting around staring out the window. I wonder what happens to registered letters if you don't pick them up. And that's what he asked, if someone doesn't eventually pick up a letter. Because many of us will get that notification in the mail and will go to the post office either that day or the next day, right? But what if a person just ignores it? Maybe the person's traveling. Maybe something happened to the person and they don't live there anymore. But if they don't eventually meaning after some time has passed, a little time, a lot of time, doesn't really matter. We're just saying after some time passes, eventually. So what happens if they don't pick up their letter ever?
That's a good question. Here again, he's just asking this out of curiosity. He doesn't need to know this information, but he's just curious. Yeah, if I don't pick it up after a long period of time, in the end, what happens to that registered letter? And the clerk says, well, an addressee has 5 to 7 days after receiving the final delivery notice. Now remember, when we have someone sending a letter, they are the sender, and then we have the receiver. And the receiver, of course, is the person who gets the letter. We can also refer to that person as the addressee because we're talking about the address on the envelope. So you're the person whom the letter is addressed to, and that person needs to get down there within 5 to 7 days. I guess that depends on whether it's the weekend or not. And if that person does not go back to the post office to pick up that letter, then here the clerk says, after that, we will return the mail to the sender along with proof that we made several attempts to deliver it. So indeed, they'll return the letter to the sender if the person doesn't claim the registered letter within a certain period of time.
Got it. I understand, in other words. Thanks for explaining that. So there you go. He's left the post office with a letter and a bit more information about how registered letters end their journeys.
So there you have it, Tim's conversation with the clerk about picking up a registered letter. And also in the earlier conversation, he was sending a letter. Hopefully this will help you if you live abroad and you need to either send a letter or pick up a registered letter. That brings us to the end of our explanation. Let's turn things over now to Henny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分的对话里， Tim 去邮局寄一封信，那么信封已经印上邮票，他不确定是不是需要另外的邮资。柜台人员就告诉他， It depends on its weight and where you want to send it. 这取决于它的重量和你想寄到哪里。文中用到片语动词 depend on， 那我们要整理相关的用法。Depend on 后面可以接人或是事物，那常见的意思有两种。第一种呢是表达取决于什么什么，是什么而定，依什么而定，就像文中的用法。那我们也来造个例句 ：We're not sure if we will go picnicking. It depends on the weather. 我们不确定是否会去野餐，这要视天气而定。好，那第二个意思可以表达仰赖、依靠，这时候意思就跟 rely on 差不多。像 Jennifer depends on her husband to drive her to work. Jennifer 仰赖她先生载她去上班。好，那这边也顺便补充一下depending on 的用法。depending on 是独立分词片语，相当于 according to， 用来表达说取决于什么什么，根据什么什么。那么之后可以接名词啊、名词子句或者是动词 ing。举例来说 ，This cake can serve 4 to 6 people, depending on how you slice it. 这个蛋糕可以供4到6个人享用，取决于你的切法，就看你怎么切咯。好，再来课文第二部分对话标题，他写到 Picking up a registered letter. 领挂号信，在这边 registered 就是用来形容邮件啊或是包裹等等，它是挂号的那个意思。好，我们这边还要另外介绍片语动词 pick up。 pick up 有很多不同意思哦，那这边以下介绍几种常见用法。第一个是如果用事物来当受词的话， pick up 可以表达取物、领取物品，就像文中用法。那如果它是用人当受词，pick somebody up 或者是 pick up somebody 可以表达接送某人，像 Thanks for picking me up 就是谢谢你来接我。好，那么第二个用法是可以表达拿起、捡起来或是抱起来，像把婴儿抱起来也可以用 pick up 表达哦。那我们造个例句 Ed picked up his guitar and started to play. Ed 拿起吉他开始弹奏。那第三个意思可以表达收拾、打扫，像 Melissa helped her mom pick up the kitchen after dinner. 吃完晚餐后 Melissa 帮妈妈收拾整理厨房。好，那第四个也很常见，很口语哦，它可以表达购买、顺便采买的意思。例如 I'll pick up a few groceries on my way home. 我在回家路上呢，会顺便去买一些食品杂货。好，那第五个呢，则是可以表达学会、养成，像 pick up bad habits 养成坏习惯。那特别注意 pick up 用来表达学会一件事的时候，常常用来指非经过正统方式学习，而是慢慢的从环境或机会里面拾得的能力、拾得的兴趣。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Postage. The postage required for large packages can be quite costly.Registered. The company had a registered trademark, meaning that the trademark was legally protected. Notify. Please notify us if you'll be late, Carol said. Curiosity. Small children often show great curiosity about the world. Eventually. The food delivery eventually arrived, but it came much later than expected.Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.